Yeah.
One more they were talking about. Close by.
42 seconds. I retimed this.
Yeah.
That's why they keep
This whole took like 6 months or something like that. It was small. You know, I think it was something like somewhere, something like that. And then, of course, Session was, he testified a couple months ago. The appointments come out shortly after.
Kate Brown was still got transfer.
Right.
I was doing one, so I think that's that.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I don't think it was a year ago.
We're ready. Does she start? I start?
Hello,
Oh, look at that.
welcome. These sound great. Thank you.
Job,
We can go ahead and dive in. If you're okay with us eating, well, I think some folk, well, I'm
As long
definitely
as
still
you
eating.
listen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
because we have a
Thank you,
walking
Stephanie.
tour to get to, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon, Chair Hill, Director Sumption, members of the commission. For the record, I am Stephanie Coons, the Deputy Director for Central Businesses. And we're actually, me and my managers are actually excited to talk to you today about Central Business Services because you got to see some really cool stuff up front, parks, and now you get to learn a little bit about behind the scenes and how great things happen back there. So you see that tree up there, right? And that's perfect for parks. And Director Sumption loves trees, by the way. But if you look at, but if you think about if you ask someone, what does it look like to work for parks? The first picture they get is a ranger, which is really cool, or the park staff. But I think what you don't really hear about is the behind the scenes, the people who are working the stuff behind the scenes. So if you picture a grand tree in one of our parks, what makes it special? The leaves, the branches, the barks, the fruit, the seeds. And those are the parts that are worth showing off, just like our beautiful parks and the staff that work there in them. And then let's not forget about the headquarters staff, because we're all part of this tree in the grander scheme of things. Let's talk about the tree's foundation. So you see the pretty tree and everything that's going up above. There's also some really cool stuff that's going on underground with that too. And the tree's foundation, think about it as Central Business Services. So they're the backbone of OPRD's administration. So they should serve as a support network, driving efficiency, fostering growth, and empowering success. So a lot of stuff done underground to make that tree look as really good as it is. And without its unseen support, did I scare you? Oh, I thought it was really loud. Without the unseen support, the tree won't be nourished. And that's the beauty of Central Business Services is we don't have to be really loud and look at all the great stuff is going on. We can help OPRD be successful without doing that. The division isn't huge, but it is mine. It has a deputy director of Central Business Services that oversees 79 employees with 6 managers. The division in general serves very critical functions for OPRD, which consists of administration, financial services, communications, government relations and policy, human resources, information technology, and procurement. So all of these services together helps OPRD navigate through difficult situations, make impactful decisions, and really look at flows and efficiencies as we're moving forward. So with that being said, I don't want to take up too much time because I have the awesome Central Business Services managers here who are going to talk a little bit about their units, kind of what they do. They're also going to share with you some of the challenges within their units and some of the initiatives that they have underway. but most importantly, they're going to share about what their employees love to be working at OPRD. Why do they love to be here? Because everyone loves it, I think. So I'm going to start kicking it off with Jamie Jones.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Hill, Director Sumption, members of the commission. My name is Jamie Jones, Supervisor of the Agency Support Team. The purpose of the Agency Support Team is to provide support and backup support and assist with solving routine concerns in the day-to-day operations at headquarters. The Agency Support Team aids agency staff and external customers, prepares reports, manages correspondence, schedules appointments, handles phone calls, travel arrangements, and performs other administrative duties that support the daily operations of headquarters. We have 6 amazing staff members on the team. 3 are Administrative Support Specialist 2s, 1 Administrative Support Specialist 1, and 2 Office Specialist 2s. Next slide. So what do we do? Well, we help facilitate business operations, ensuring smooth functioning of daily operations. We collaborate with staff. We support employees, committee members, and customers. We provide customer service, providing information to customers and staff, the point of contact for internal and external partners. We are efficient and we communicate. We streamline processes and increase productivity. We're effective in communication, and we provide a positive work environment. We make sure that we definitely plan ahead and stay organized. Our job is to support everyone that we encounter. We are the first person that you see when you come to headquarters, and it is our job to give the best customer service and support. Our team has excellent customer service skills and the ability to fully understand customer needs and provide effective solutions for each customer. We are active listeners who pay close attention to what others are saying, and we demonstrate our understanding. So next slide. The challenges. Well, balancing resources. We support everyone at OPRD. So making sure
the operational continuity of things, keeping things moving, assuring accurate fund tracking, grants and lottery funds and all types of different sources flowing through there, and staff satisfaction and operational efficiency. How are we serving our parks? Are we taking good care of people? Are they getting things on time? Paychecks, right? And then accurate and transparent financial reporting. We have had so many changes, the work that you've done on revenue and that sort of thing. So really pushing in this area and looking at how are we doing? How is our stewardship? What's our service level in transparency, timely, and building that public trust. And that really comes back to making these fee changes count and not having any surprises. And then challenges. While the revenue changes and all the work that you did were amazing, we still have a gap, right? Looking at that and figuring that out, the revenue versus the expense growth. And if you've been in our state for a while, you know that expense growth has been rather impressive. And then limited flexibility in reallocating resources. We have commitments, we have funding that's dedicated to certain things. There are some things that are not necessarily changeable, and what can we do within those boundaries? Upcoming initiatives, really exciting things that we have going on. Enhanced financial literacy and collaboration across the organization, and then open house sessions where information was shared, and the director, I'm sure, got all sorts of great ideas from those sessions. And then partner training, really looking at, are we doing everything that we can with the resources that we have, right? And then what do we enjoy most about working at OPRD? This information came from the staff, but I also have opinions too. So meaningful mission. I think that's really amazing. When I was looking at opportunities, the mission for Parks and Rec, that's something that I believe in. Collaborative and supportive culture. I can absolutely attest to that. Everyone has been so welcoming. The support staff, my team, the leadership team, everyone has been really amazing. And then the connection to nature. You got out, you saw the river, you checked things out today, and that is part of our work. So that really adds value, and we help Oregonians and visitors with that. Okay, and now I'm going to pass it to Katie.
Thank you. Like she's done 100 already.
She's excited.
No, she's excited to do it. Just like the rest of you.
Yes. Chair Hill, Director Assumption, members of the commission, Katie Gauthier. I'm the interim communications director, and I have been working with the communications team since January, and very excited to work with this team. It is a great team. The mission and purpose of communications is to manage internal and external communications for the agency. We work on marketing, branding, merchandise, public relations, and community outreach, and building awareness and engagement for the agency in all of our programs and processes. The communications team is an 11-employee team broken out into two different groups. We have the creative side and the information center side. The creative side does all of the marketing, branding, materials. So, we have a brand manager who works on merchandise and brand, an art director who does the material development, works with vendors when we do that on development of materials. We have a market researcher who's amazing at identifying how we work with our customers and what the trends are in the customer relations. And then we have a sign coordinator so that we're developing all of our signs internally. And then 2 digital media, social media specialists. And on our info center side, they're doing all of the customer communications. So that's the proactive when we're reaching out. They've been very busy the last week contacting customers when we have to close a park for fires, or when we're doing fire bans and notifying customers that there's a fire ban in place. And then also the reactive, when customers have questions about what they can do in parks, or they don't do reservations. We have a reservation line, but they do everything else. So they answer phones and email conversations. What we work to do, seamless communications, promoting the benefits of OPRD programs, services, and facilities. And it's all OPRD, so State Park side and all of our grants. And we work with the Heritage team to promote some of their programs as well. The benefit to visitors and making sure that we're having clear, consistent communication. I'm focused on internal and external communications. So they're the focus on our internal side, doing our internal newsletter. You are now getting some of the newspaper clips via email. So our team is focused on that. And then brand management and merchandise. As we start to try to do more merchandise, this team is focused on how do we do that in a sustainable way for the agency and any customer communication. Our purpose really is to inspire, engage, and inform. So fostering collaboration among employees and participation for visitors. We don't have a shortage of people who want to visit parks, but we want to educate them and make them responsible recreators. So it's the collaboration to make sure that we're getting the message out so that people are recreating and following the rules that we need people to follow when they come into parks. Challenges, there's a lot going on in OPRD. And we do, I mean, for our new commissioners, as you'll find out, there's a lot more than just the park that you visit on the weekend. We are a very broad agency, so communicating the breadth and the depth of what we do as an agency is a challenge. So we are busy all the time, and we have a very relatively small communication staff that has to balance what the needs are of the agency. And communication is a changing field, and so figuring out what the best methods for that communication is, and what our priorities are as an agency and how we communicate. As it's changing strategies, where the communications priorities are, and where the best bang for our buck as an agency is in communication. And available, and we have some very well-loved spaces. So how do we direct people to less well-loved times or less well-loved places, and kind of helping to answer that question of, well, how do I get a reservation? So both in the policy realm, looking at our market research and how can we better direct our policy around camping, and then also how do we help guide visitor behavior. Upcoming initiatives, we are looking at merchandise. As we have changes in our procurement policy, we have new opportunities around merchandise. So our branding team is working on new merchandise policy so that we can better utilize merchandise opportunities. And we have a new sign. We have a sign manual from 1993 that is being updated to help our field staff know how to. We have a great sign portal that they order signs from, but to really know how to utilize signs and where they can put signs and all of the sign processes. And then we have a campaign that we're working between government relations and communications on what does it take to run a state park, and trying to help people understand that the nature that you go to a state park to see takes work, and you don't see the behind the scenes work that it takes, but trying to peel back the curtain and understand what it takes to help people who are trying to understand why our fees have increased and why it takes the staff that it takes. So helping that campaign from a social media perspective and a earned media perspective. And the team, you'll hear this consistently, the mission of OPRD is one that we all connect with. The people who work in communications also are in our parks and enjoy our parks. I think the fun part with this team, the creative side, they really want to use their creativity for good and their art for good. And so they get a lot of personal satisfaction with working for OPRD and being creative in alignment with the mission of OPRD. And they all said that the people that they work with, both within their unit and across the agency, make working and coming to work gives them satisfaction. And then we'll move to government relations and policy. Take a breath. So the government relations and policy unit focuses on the interface between tribal relations, local, state, and federal government relations. So we collaborate on all levels of government relations and accessibility and public information. So information officer is within our government relations and policy unit. And we work on internal agency policy as well. So we are a very small but mighty team of 5. We have a senior policy analyst who's working on director's office policy priorities right now on a rotational basis. We have an ADA coordinator who works on accessibility issues and tribal issues. It's a split position. And then we have a policy analyst who will be doing rulemaking primarily, a policy analyst who does internal policy coordination, and then a policy coordinator, and our public information officer. And collaboration is really how we make all of that work. All of the policy and rulemaking work that we do is in collaboration with some other part of the agency. None of the work we do could happen without collaboration across the agency and across the state. We collaborate with other state agencies and with nonprofits and non-governmental entities and partners who are doing similar work. Our goal really has been to try to remove barriers and build trust so that people will collaborate with us and that we can promote increased efficiencies and helping to seek solutions to make things work better. And I said that we do tribal and state government. With our public information, we're doing strategic media work and strategic messaging along with all of the news releases and both proactive and reactive media work. And then developing agency policy, and you see us most around rulemaking, and I think you'll continue to see us around rulemaking for the foreseeable future. And the goal really is around promoting clear, consistent communication, which is the theme you'll continue to hear, and being supportive of the agency, making sure that we're doing our priorities are the needs of the agency and that we're prioritizing the highest needs for the agency. And the challenges, rulemaking, there are changes, whether there's legislation that I'm not sure where it's going to go, whether it'll be legislative changes or the governor's office changes in rulemaking that may extend timelines and the complexities of the processes that we have to follow for rulemaking. And we just have more rules. Our agency rules, many of them are dated and were written in a time when we could have more simplistic rules. And I think as the nature of public policy changes, our rules have to be more complex. And so rulemaking is a challenge. We also do public records requests within our unit. So managing public records requests, we've embraced and sometimes with begrudgingly, maybe.
Taking it on.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one, but what people request, and have lots of feelings about public records requests, but so managing public records requests and the increasing workload of public records requests. And then just implementing, there are a number of statewide policies that we're being required to develop. And so implementing new statewide policies and developing statewide policies. Things we have that are on the forefront, financial sustainability study and looking at financial sustainability. We have a survey that we're looking at as part of that to survey Oregonians on where they see the future of state parks and where their priorities are within state parks. Looking at accessible documents, there are some new requirements around accessible websites, but training, and as part of that, we need to train our employees on how to create accessible documents so that we make sure that when we put things on our website, they are accessible. So we have accessible document training, and then a continuing accessibility within our parks. That's an ongoing process. And rulemaking for the implementation of legislative changes. You'll see some of those today, but that's not over. And what this team enjoys most is, again, alignment with the mission, purpose, and values of OPRD. We are park users, and we have some of the members of our team started out as field employees and have transitioned into headquarters. And I think that's been a really good balance so that we get that perspective. It's been a nice thing. And then it's a challenge. There's never one day that's the same as the next. So it's fascinating to learn what new things Oregonians are doing and how that impacts our park staff and how we can help to guide the use so that everybody can recreate across Oregon. And we have amazing people to work with. So I will introduce Kristen next. Thanks. Oh, sure.
Good afternoon, Chair Hill, Director Sumption, and members of the commission. I'm Kristen Kaler-Jones, OPRD HR Director. I've been here a whopping 9 months, but I've been with, yeah, but I've been with state government for about 30 years. So HR, essentially, we manage the employee life cycle from the moment we begin to recruit to the moment an employee leaves the agency. And we do all of those things in between. I've heard small and mighty from about 3 of us. I was going to say we're a small and mighty team. We're 13 people, including myself as the HR director. We have 2 managers. So we have the employee and labor relations team, which is a manager and 3 HR business partners. We have the recruitment and operations team, which is a manager, 2 recruiters, what we call a position management and workday reporting analyst. And then we have someone who does the bulk of our workday processing and all of our responding to all of our HR inboxes. And then we have 1 employee who does classification and compensation for the agency, 1 employee who specializes in protected leaves, and then 1 employee who splits her time between workers' compensation and training and development or training coordination. So most of what HR does can be summed up with these 2 sort of headings, the managing employee experience and employee engagement. So our work with in HR really begins with the candidate experience, and that's something we're focusing on pretty heavily right now. We don't want candidates applying for jobs at OPRD to feel like they applied for a job and 40 days later they've still heard nothing. They have no idea. So we're working with our hiring managers to be in constant communication, or at least weekly or biweekly communication, to let the candidates know where they're at. And then, so of course, some of those candidates actually become employees. And so we work with our hiring managers to find the right people for the positions, to get them onboarded. And then our focus really turns to the employee experience, where we're working to make sure that they're properly classified, that they're paid according to their employee or their experience level and their education, and that we help them navigate their leaves. So family medical leave and now paid. We help them. Lost my train of thought. Better look at my notes. That's why I have them, right? We manage workers' compensation, and we work to ensure compliance and alignment with laws, rules, policies, and collective bargaining agreements. And then sometimes we'll have managers who want to sort of reorganize or restructure their unit. Maybe the work has shifted, or there's new projects they need to work on. So we might work with them to abolish positions so they can establish new positions, or to reclassify the positions that they have. We also we want to set employees up to succeed in their positions, and the best way we can do that is to clearly articulate what their duties are in their position descriptions. So we're working to make sure that all employees have updated and accurate position descriptions. We work with our managers to then set expectations according to those duties. And then we help them to provide feedback and coach employees to success. And then, of course, we support the managers should performance or behavior not align with policy or what the stated expectations are. And so employee engagement, as many of you or all of you probably know, employee engagement is directly connected to our recruitment efforts. It's also directly connected to our ability to retain our workforce. We do an annual employee engagement survey. HR helps to coordinate that. And we review results, but not to say, hey, you're not doing so well, or you guys are doing awesome, but more to say, so we can kind of open the door to have a conversation with employees about how engaged are they? How do they feel? What do they do if they're not feeling engaged? And help them to find some tools to help them re-engage in their work. And then also help managers create action plans for their teams so they can work to increase the level of engagement of their teams. And then nothing HR does really, we rarely act alone. So we do it all in partnership. We're either partnering with the exec team, with management, with labor. We're working closely to build a strong partnership with our labor leaders inside the agency. We partner on the affirmative action plan and the agency succession plan and the belonging, equity, and engagement plan. Like, we're involved in all of those things. So our current challenges or most recent challenges, you might be aware of federal layoffs, and you might be aware of inflation and layoffs in other industries. And then we recently partnered with Katie's team to do sort of a social media blitz to say, hey, Oregon, we're hiring for our seasonal workforce. And all those things in unison, it doubled our applicant pool for our seasonal workforce. So our recruiters of 2, they were like, we can't really review all these applicants. So we had to do a lot of shifting within HR to help manage that work so we could get the staff hired for the parks around the state. And then the other one, which is sort of related, the 13 team members that I mentioned in HR, half of us have been here less than a year. So we're not necessarily new to HR, but we are new to parks, and we are new to getting to know the people. So like we're understanding the culture and getting into our groove of working with the people. And then we had one employee go on a job rotation, and then we all sort of shifted to fill in behind. So everybody sort of stepped out, not everybody, about 7 people stepped out of their base position to go on a job rotation within HR. So that was it wasn't a little, it was a lot challenging, but it was good because it created a lot of growth and learning opportunities for the entire team, which leads to what we're focusing on. And what we realized is we really need some very solid processes and onboarding guides. So we're well on our way to making that happen. And as soon as we get that done, we then focus our attention to make sure all of our resources that are outward facing to the organization, to the staff and employees, that those are all updated and easily accessible. So they can self-serve on a lot of the easier things and then utilize the staff resources on the more complex questions. And then once that's done, we'll do some training of the management on the refined processes, as well as sort of the nuances or the more nuanced things about managing and leading a workforce. And just like small and mighty was a theme, like what you see we enjoy about OPRD is also a theme. So I'd like to just read a real quick message from one of my team members, and all 12 of us liked or loved her comments. And so I think this sums it up. I love working for OPRD because it allows me to give back to the agency that protects the places that mean the most to me. Are parks. Parks are where I go to recharge, connect with nature, and make lasting memories with my family and explore. Park are my sanctuary and my inspiration. Supporting the dedicated individuals who care for these special places is deeply fulfilling. I believe in OPRD's mission to make parks welcoming for everyone, and I'm proud to be part of a team that shares that vision. I'm grateful to work alongside passionate, hardworking people in an environment where I can show up as my authentic self and contribute to something meaningful. Thank you. And Frank Smith is going to come up.
Everybody hear? Can everybody hear me okay?
We can.
Outstanding. Good afternoon, Chair Hill, Director Sumption, and members of the commission. For the record, my name is Frank Smith. I'm the Assistant Director, IT Special Projects Manager. And I'm here today on behalf of our CIO, Chief Information Officer, Bob DeVilder, who couldn't be with us today. I'll provide a brief update on the role of information technology at OPRD, including some of our current initiatives and what drives our team. I've heard small and all this. We're, I guess, the big boys in the group.
This is huge.
Information technology at OPRD plays a foundational role in supporting both internal operations and public-facing services. Our team of 20 supports over 800 staff and manages the systems behind everything from field operations and business tools to online reservations and digital engagement. We ensure our technology is secure, reliable, and aligned with the agency's mission. Some of the positions you see: GIS, it's global spatial information. We have a small software development group. We have internal infrastructure in our help desk. We have project management, and then our reservation support services. Our work falls into three major areas. First one being customer service and digital experience. We offer tools for conducting business online, including digital branding, communication platforms, and reservation systems that help visitors access and enjoy our parks. Data management. We gather and organize data to support better decision-making. This means ensuring that the data is usable, secure, and aligned with our business needs. And then internal operations and infrastructure. We make sure our hardware, software, and networks work together to support staff across the state. That includes strategic planning, collaboration tools, and maintaining reliable information systems. And go to my next page here. I think we're on the next. Sure, I'm on the next. Challenges. I'm not right now. We face a few key challenges. Some of our tools and systems are dated and no longer meet the expectations of today's users. There's a growing demand for digital services. Visitors expect a smooth, automated interaction, just like those that they receive from private sector hospitality companies. Technology is changing rapidly, and so are cybersecurity threats. Staying ahead of both is essential. Obviously, you've heard recently some of the cybersecurity challenges other state agencies have faced. In response, we're focusing on several major initiatives. We're upgrading our cybersecurity tools and practices to protect our systems and data. We're modernizing our reservation system, what we're calling the Recreation Hub, to unify access to park services and enhance the overall user experience. We're also building Heritage Hub to support the Heritage Division and its partners better. In addition, we're starting to work on a land management system and complete redesign of our public-facing website to more accurately reflect the full range of recreational opportunities we offer. Lastly, I want to share a little bit about our IT team. As a group, we love this work because we get to help people create lifelong memories, whether it's a first campfire, a family reunion, or simply a walk in one of our great parks. We're proud to support the rangers and staff who make those experiences possible, and we truly enjoy working as part of the Parks and Tech team.
And if you haven't seen the videos,
Thank you for the opportunity to share this update with you, and I think I get to pass it off to Bill Beatty.
Thank you.
All right.
Where'd that come from? They made it up, so they do these videos every time that we have like a software update or so our IT team will go on video and they'll share with folks how to fix something or do an update or whatever, so their parks.
Hello, Chair Hill, Director Sumption, and members of the commission. I'm Bill Beatty, the designated procurement officer, also known as the procurement manager at times. Okay, our procurement unit, what we do is we manage the acquisition of goods, services to support park maintenance, programming, and capital improvements. So really, in a nutshell, what we do is we make processes the most efficient, easy way possible that still protects the state and the agency. Our unit's comprised of 6 employees, besides myself. We have 4 senior procurement specialists, and they handle the medium to large solicitations, and 2 procurement specialists, 2s that handle the daily purchase orders and small procurements. These are all experienced procurement specialists that we somewhat handpicked the last few years to make sure that they fit exactly what we needed to be as efficient as possible. What we do is we provide guidance on procurement methods, guidance on requirements, and explain legal steps and implications. And then in contract development, we collaborate with the requester, we write the contract ourselves, and we execute the contract. With solicitations, we develop the solicitation document based on what the requester submits to us and make sure that it's proper and legal. We process the solicitation and we award and execute the contract and then hand that to the requester to manage. Challenges we have right now is really can sum up with Oregon bias. That's a big Oregon cries is what we call it. And we have limited flexibility for purchases. And really, we're working on that currently, and I'll get to that in a second. And added timeframes for solicitations. So when you use Oregon Buys, it has built-in additional timeframes that we just don't normally have or didn't experience prior to Oregon Buys, even with ORPN, the previous system. Our upcoming initiatives is the exemption to the Public Procurement Code. We are really one step away from acquiring that, and that's going to loosen things up, meaning that things are going to become easier, faster, and more efficient, and we'll be able to serve the public more expediently. We are creating OPRD procurement website currently. We just started that, and we're creating OPRD rules, policies, and procedures with Katie's group. And what we like most about working at OPRD, it's a family atmosphere. And when you get first welcome to OPRD, they say, welcome to the family, and they really mean it. Mutual respect and collaboration between procurement and other units. That's something we built over the years, and we really rely on them and they rely on us as well. So it's really a good partnership. And we didn't intentionally do this part, but everyone on the team spends their time off at our parks, hiking, biking, and dirt bike riding, side-by-sides too. But we all spend our weekends in the forest. No, we don't run into each other, but I do run into other park employees at the parks pretty consistently. But that's it for procurement. Thank you.
Thank you, team. So that's Central Business Services. They're pretty awesome and a great group of people. So Central Business Services, it's a critical support network, but it's really what nurtures our parks to make them successful. And then it's challenging because there's multiple responsibilities, lots of decisions, quick actions. I was going to say DAS, but whenever there's a new system or something coming from a department, but we're just quickly reacting to things as we're moving forward. But then it's fun because we get to work with everyone in this room, multiple divisions. The staff here are just phenomenal. So we always say we're one shield, but we're one body, one department. We're all one together in this. Just like a tree, the grand tree that's made up, it has lots of different parts, but we all function the same. So it doesn't take away from the fact that we're number one. So I'm proud of all of our parts in completeness, and I want to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude to the CBS management team and all the employees within Central Services. They are absolutely phenomenal and amazing, And then I'm actually proud and honored to walk alongside of them because they do so much for Oregon. It's not even funny. So with that being said, do you have any questions? Commissioner
Leo?
Dunn? Yes.
I was interested in that exemption from the procurement code. What is that about?
Oh,
That's a big one.
yes.
Yeah, and I hadn't
Yes.
heard anything about this.
So when we did our ledge concepts, so for the last several years, we've actually been asking for a lot more flexibility, not necessarily to be a public corporation or a semi-independent, but similar to what we did at the fair when we kind of unleashed things there. In hindsight, Matt and I kind of look back and kick ourselves and we're like, we did all that for the fair and we didn't even think about the park system, right? Like the same benefits would be beneficial. And so we've been slowly asking for more flexibility. And we get shut down pretty quickly in those conversations. So this time we went in and we asked for exemptions just on printing. So like our park brochures, our guides, like that was a thing that DAS cannot print for us. So we pay DAS, we pay an assessment for procurement. So we pay to the mothership to just have that. And then we go to them and say, hey, can you print this? And yeah, Katie's holding up. We're getting really good at the dog and pony show.
Okay.
So they can't print them. So we still pay that assessment and they say, okay, Joel, you can't do that for me. So Stu, you do it. And Stu's like, okay, well, here's how much it's going to cost. I still pay you a broker fee.
I like that.
And so, so several $100,000. And we're like, so even printing, just printing our stickers for ATV, our stickers for all of our grants out in communities, those things they can't print, but we still pay them a fee and then we go do it on our own. So we're like, okay, if we could just get out of printing, that would be fine. And we landed ourselves in a legislator's office and said, well, if it would work for printing, wouldn't it work for everything? And we're like, oh, yes, it would, Senator. And so we've done quite a roller coaster ride. And I think Shipsy just actually got a enrollment to be looking at 838. It went through the Senate floor for the third time yesterday unanimously. We've got lots of feedback on the House side, letting us know that this is unprecedented. It will not happen for another agency and don't screw it up, I think is the larger message. So you guys will have the rules tomorrow that by October, 90 days after sine die, we will be exempt from state procurement. And yes, that does not mean that we can go do whatever we want. You guys will adopt rules. We will have policies, procedures. Bill and Katie and team have been working. We meet weekly to make sure we're ready that October 1, we can exercise closer to the way we used to do things. And in particular, like they kept saying things like, just do emergency contracts. I was like, so we do that every weekend during the summer, like water, sewer, electric, those things go out. We have to be responsive. And I think he called it Oregon Cries, but what we have realized is that our Oregon businesses can't participate with Oregon Buys in our communities because we're in such rural places that it's actually precluded people that we've partnered with forever. So it's a really big deal. We don't take the responsibility lightly, but at the same time, we need that flexibility. So we're hoping it will not only make it more efficient, that will actually save money as well, because obviously we're not getting more money. So this is another way to reduce some expenses.
There is an exception, so we will still have to follow state procurement code for surplus property, information technology, GIS, and telecommunications. But everything else, we are out of the public procurement code.
Wow.
As long as our attorney reviews it and gets it back over timely.
And we're just waiting for the governor's signature.
Well, if you need to go take a break. So yeah, it's a really big deal. But I will tell you, this has been one of the most challenging sessions in my 26 years, but I was so grateful for Liz because I had a tap out moment. I was just like, I can't. And she jumped right in and rallied and lobbied and got it to the end. So it took every one of us. And I don't know how many times we've been to that damn Capitol this year, but it's
a huge deal for this agency.
Yes.
Exempt from DAS, and it'll allow for better customer service as well as cost savings. So it's super exciting. We'll get some rules that'll help shape what that looks like.
That's great news. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that. I mean, as someone who also sits on the State Fair Council, and we have that advantage today, it's amazing how much it's streamlined and made so much more efficient that we're able to conduct business over there. The
Yeah.
state parks is now going to be like that.
No, we
So-
handed it off to you guys,
Yeah.
and Matt and I walked back and we were like, oh, we just gave them the best tools ever.
Thank
We
you,
get to
Matt.
go back and do it
Appreciate it.
the hard way. So yes, baby steps.
But also thank all of you guys for the work that you did at the legislature. I mean, I do remember phone calls of like desperation, and that was this is one of the biggest lifts that you've had to do in a long time. And so it's huge for this agency, but it'll be really cool for the
Yeah.
state. So thank
Well,
you
and
for.
Bill he jumped right in. He was like, I'll write the policies, rules. This is really great. And I was like, and I think at one point he said, it's the reason I came to Parks because I knew you were going to get there.
Yes.
So now everyone's going to want to come work at our agency.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Thanks,
that,
Stephanie.
Stephanie. Great job. It was nice to have it broken up. I know not everybody wanted to have to come up here and talk, but it was really nice for you to highlight your units and what you do. And I loved actually when she's been working on her presentation for weeks. And I loved that you got to ask your team what they liked about it. And it was really kind of fun the last couple of weeks to see the common theme. And it's like, well, they're all fairly new and they still owns it, but Port of Tillamook Bay manages it. It's 86 miles from Portland all the way to the coast, and it's been. I would be remiss if I didn't say it was Doug Decker's idea. Doug Decker is the grandfather of the Salmonberry Trail, and had this grandiose idea of being able to convert it and to rail bank it and have the ability for folks to go all the way from Portland to the coast on a trail, whether you're on a bike or you're hiking and camping along the way. And that probably was about 12 to 14 years ago. Him and Tim Wood were the ones who started the initial conversation and had the dream and had the vision and kind of rubbed elbows a few times and were like, hey, could we make this a little side hustle and figure out how to do it? And then about probably 2011, 2012, somewhere in there, we actually had Oregon Solutions come in and spend a bit of time, and they studied trails, continuous trails all across the world, and came back with some recommendations because, as you can imagine, something as large and monstrous as 86 miles of trail that go through multiple cities, jurisdictions, have all kinds of different geography, terrain. The reason that it's available to do this is because it's gone through 2 pretty significant storms that have completely wiped it out, and the railroad can't rebuild. So putting a trail in also comes with those. There's trestles, there's all kinds of stuff. So as they studied it, they kind of modeled it more like the Appalachian Trail. And they said, okay, no, not one person wants to take responsibility for it because all of us are like 1, 2, 3, not it. There's no money. At the time, Senator Johnson was a huge proponent of it and actually created a bill that directed us as agencies to work on it and tried to, they created a fund, and then we were going to fund the trail to be able to build this thing. And then quickly agencies had no money, and the fund is still there. It's still empty. It's still blank, but we've still been working in concert together. But at the time, what we did, rather than having as Parks and Forestry, we were the co-conveners of this group, which consists of Washington County, Tillamook County, Washington County Visitors Association. Who else is in there? Grand Ron is on the advisory role. Well, it was Washington County Visitors Association back in the day.
So all of us partners are at the table, and everybody, what we did is we all put money in so that way we could pay for like a trail coordinator and we could start doing the plan. So there's been a concept plan done, and we created something called the Salmonberry Trail Intergovernmental Agency. It's called STIA, and it's under ORS 190, and it's essentially like its own little government. And that STIA is those board members. And so it worked for years. It got a rail banked. We were able to sign the lease with the Salmonberry, the Surface Transportation Board. So right now, STIA has the lease for 99 years through the Port of Tillamook Bay with the Surface Transportation Board. But the dilemma you all heard in the last couple of years is all of a sudden we started running into neighbor issues and easement issues, and all of a sudden the neighbors were like, "Hey, we're going to go to federal court with STIA." There's nobody home at STIA. STIA is essentially OPRD because we were the only active folks in the room. I think it was the first time in my career that Council Shipsy got to tell me, it's not really within the course scope of your duty, and I can't really represent you, but you need to go to federal court, Madam Director, as the STIA director.
And I'm coming with you.
And I'm going to come with you, but I'm not really with you.
Vacation.
Yeah, exactly. So it's worked, but what we have recognized is that in order for the trail to move forward, the partners currently are all on the same page. Washington County has stepped up now more in the last year and a half or so. Tillamook County has been all in. I think Rockaway is putting in the first mile or so. So it's starting to have a lot of momentum, and everybody is willing at this moment in time with the right relationships and the right players. Everybody is willing to move to a different place because we all recognize the only way for STIA to do anything would be to have an executive director, a budget team, and this whole thing you saw today, they need that. And that's not realistic. And why would you build a whole nother agency to be able to support a trail? So this one has been nudging me for a long time, just saying, it's so frustrating. Why don't we just take it over? We do other trails. And I'm like, yes, but when you sign this scary lease with the Surface Transportation Board, it says OPRD will own, manage, maintain, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's very legally intimidating. But at the same time, building a whole nother state agency or a whole nother governmental entity to support the trail doesn't seem like the right move. So we sat with the partners and said, hey, what if we were willing to go ahead and take the Salmonberry Trail, we'll lead it, we'll go ahead and do the lease, take it from STIA, move it to OPRD, and all the partners will continue to contribute. They'll all help. We'll do a memorandum of agreement with each of the counties and the partners, and they are responsible for their portions. We are not. So that way it doesn't put everybody collectively is on the hook, not one. But it is frightening to think about it from that perspective. But I'm gonna let JR talk a little bit more about future stuff and what that looks like, because that's really what we really want you to weigh in on, because it really does put OPRD on the hook for that Surface Transportation Board agreement, that lease. And yes, we can walk away, we can do all those things, but I worry that when you aren't sitting in those chairs and we aren't sitting in these chairs, and you just look at the legalese on the other side, it puts a bit of responsibility onto the organization. So it's not a decision you have to make, but I would love your feedback.
Yeah, thanks. I think a lot of the considerations here is there's understandably so a lot of interest in long linear trails and rail to trail conversions. It's a really cool, elegant idea. This idea of connecting Portland over the Coast Range over to the coast in Tillamook, and it's exciting for everyone except the land manager, I think, because there's so much obligation, and we have experience with linear trail with OC&E versus Salmonberry is we just a lease, whereas Salmonberry as the underlying owner of the Port Tillamook Bay. as we got further and further along and discussing this idea of assuming the lease and how that would look, we've been working. We actually brought Mike Cafretta. He works for Oregon Department of Forestry over on a rotation. He sits on the Samberry Trail Foundation board. He's the district ranger for Forest Grove District, and so he's familiar with the area, has been involved for a long time, and has a lot of interest. So he's been working for us on a rotation for the last several months, helping us kind of come up with what would that structure look like. And so what we focused on is trying to create there's like multiple tracks. One is a reassignment of the lease. And I would say, not to minimize it, that's fairly straightforward, which is pulling out STIA, inserting parks. There's decisions to be made, but I think it's a relatively straightforward process. Where we put the most work into is the memorandum of understanding with the managing partners, because really what are currently STIA members would become managing partners and sponsors under this new agreement within parks. And those main partners are Department of Forestry, Tillamook County, Washington County, and then the Samberry Trail Foundation. That's where we put the lion's share of the work, which is trying to recognize it's a big step for us to take this responsibility on, but that we really aren't interested in doing that without commitment from those partners. And that really the idea of trying to break the trail down into smaller segments that can be implemented in smaller scale by either small communities, other nonprofit volunteer associations, either potentially also the state agencies, but that we would each take lead or help facilitate development of sections and opening of sections, and that the responsibility won't fall on any one entity. We've met with our partners over with Missouri State Parks, who manage the Katy Trail, which is the longest rail to trail in the country at, like, I think it's just over 200 miles long. And we're patterning our agreement very similarly to how they manage their agreement. And then also kind of a little bit of how we manage the Lower Deschutes River Group. So we sprinkled in several of our large kind of cooperative agreements into how we can loop this all together. So that's the focus of what we've been working on. And really what that hinges around is those main managing entities really center around the four: state parks, forestry, Washington County, and Tillamook County. Each have a segment responsibility, and they would be like the coordinating entity within that segment. But then our goal is that we would have what right now we're calling trail sponsors. And that's where it goes down to kind of the next level down, which was, I think Lisa mentioned Rockaway, the city of Rockaway over on the coast. Also, city of Wheeler is also trying to enter into an agreement right now. The foundation is working with us on agreement up by Stubbs Stewart right now for a section. And each section is about 3 miles, probably about right now, that they're offering to take on. They're getting the grant. They will take on operation maintenance long-term of that section in that agreement, and that we would write basically sublease agreements with them to be the sponsors of these sections, like an Adopt a Trail section, to the point of even adding infrastructure, like the city of Wheeler and Rockaway are both talking about garbages and restrooms, in addition to managing the trail surface. So by connecting those segments, the trail total 6 miles, not all of that, a lot of that's over on the coast, but so as we start to break those off in 3 and 4 mile sections, we're kind of adding up to the bigger piece, and then we just have the gaps that we'd have to fill in. So that's the goal of kind of how the current agreement is being finalized. I think DOJ is doing some review on it, and I think all the managing partners are actually circulating through their commissions and committees for feedback, but feel like we've tossed it back and forth already 2 or 3 times, and I think it's minor semantics right now. I think it's moving along, and so I think there's a lot of excitement. It seems like there's also hesitation in handing over. We think it's funny because I think we are hesitant, but then we see there's some hesitation in some of the other groups on what this commitment or change. And so we're trying. I think that while, as Lisa mentioned, there's nobody home particularly, it's an empty shell. of an interagency, with us, we still can then have that support that really, again, to become operational, we have to be able to leverage, which is some of our technical experts and staff that we offer to a lot of entities and counties and communities. So being able to help offer that assistance without being a full-time person. The additional thing that we've offered currently with financial support from the managing sponsors is to do a limited duration coordinator for as a project manager for the trail. So currently we've funded Mike Cafretta's time on rotation over to us through the end of this month. And then we would be seeking, we would probably hire somebody for a 2-year limited duration to help kind of get us over through the next phase of getting the agreements in place and then what the next steps are with the trail.
Thoughts, questions, comments, Dave, did we miss anything?
I had a question. When you're working with these different counties, like Washington County and Tillamook County, are you working with like their legal department, their parks department?
Their
Just what?
It's their county commissioners, and then we also have Washington County Visitor Association
Well,
there. So it's their county commissioners. So it's been the agency directors and the county commissioners is how it's been from the beginning. And that's been, I mean, it's been challenging because those folks, I mean, it used to be Caroline and now it's Dave, and like the county commissioners have all rotated, and it's quite interesting to watch because I thought, okay, as soon as an elected goes out, the next one will come in and the passion won't be there. It comes in like tenfold stronger. Like the communities want this. They really, really want this. And it used to be they wanted it, but they wanted the state to fund it and the state to own and manage it. They're now recognizing that the only way this is going to work is if everybody, so we have shared vision over the trail. We have the same signage, we have all the same rules, all the same consistency along the trail. So the user doesn't know there's a difference, but we all partner and have to manage the maintenance and operations. Everybody at that table understands that the building it isn't the hard part. It's the maintaining it over time. And they all know that we are very serious, that if they are not going to take their role seriously, we will walk away. We will cease that lease and it will no longer be rail banked, and they'll have to figure out what that looks like while we're sitting in these seats. That is the piece that would have to be really clearly articulated, because we know from the Oregon Coast Trail, the OC&E, thanks for knowing you not so much. We've gotten, that's been a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest concern. To be honest, it's like, yeah, it makes sense for the next decade, but then when they do walk away, which will happen, one will walk away down in the future. Like we're going to be the ones that people turn to and say, you need to take responsibility for this. And how does that impact our budget, all of the things? I guess I'm also curious, like how OPRD taking this on, our legal, like the liability with the landowners that are currently interested in suing you, how that will play out for OPRD.
I think we're assuming
already participating.
It'll
right.
continue.
So that's been the more interesting challenge, because we're already getting sued, right? Because we're there and we're the only one there. But at the same time, some of the things that have been pointed out is by having it be OPRD, it actually has rec community, where currently the Port of Tillamook Bay doesn't. And they're currently the owner, but STIA is the leaseholder.
Yeah.
So they're, depending on what happens with the rec community, I think it could be different, but having a entity might make it, because we were looking at giving it to like the foundation and having them do all the operational, and it's like, that's different. They're going to need different liability insurance, and which is why we created the ORS under 190, because then we could have those benefits. So we spent a lot of time legally looking at that back in like 2014-ish, trying to figure out like what makes the most sense, because people were going, and we had already signed the lease with STIA, and there was nobody at STIA.
Sure.
And it's like, so people are promoting it and they really should not be out there. Thankfully, nobody has gotten hurt that we know of, but yeah.
See if I'm doing this. I'm Dave Perla. As point of information, I'm first opportunity to be a commissioner, and I also, for full disclosure, sit on the San Maria Trail governmental agency representing Explore Tualatin Valley. So I want to make sure everyone understands that. Just to provide some operational flavor, how STIA and Parks and San Maria Trail Foundation arrived where they were, is that within the past park trail construction went from parametrics work and planning to actually becoming more of a reality. And so what we've witnessed was that the segment that's in Washington County actually is being activated with rails and tie removal and graveling, so it's becoming close. And also we observed a community change, particularly on the coast, where it was, maybe you would describe it as a NIMBY trail that may be going against Oregon, the coast, and against ODOT, to looking like a shared community value. And so we really saw a change in how the communities were responding. We saw the change how the tourism organizations and the counties. We also realized from the steel level and the Savonbury Trail Foundation level was that the current structure would never get us beyond the point of where we currently are, and that the foundation does not have the wherewithal of the technical understanding that parks can bring with drainage, bridge inspections, all these ABC type of things that need to happen. So that's a lot of that conversation happened. And also the same concern was looking at the Banks Vernonia Trail for long-term viability. So, Director Sumption's correct. I mean, the engagement that I've seen in 4 years has just ramped way up, and both within Washington County, Tillamook, and the coast. So it's really changed.
Feedback. Thank you.
And since we're talking about new commissioners, I'll go next.
You knew he'd get you both excited.
Yeah, we're so excited. My concerns have been answered mostly by Director and Dave. I appreciate that too, because I think that these all ebb and flow, right? The interest peaks and then it valleys, and then somebody's stuck holding the ball. So to your point, I think that those agreements, those cooperative interagency contracts, and whatever they are going to be, slow and easy, right? Thoughtful, very well developed. So then in the end, as you said, when we're not sitting in these chairs, there's nobody, it's still sustainable, right? Because maintenance and operations are where it's at. And with so many different people excited about the project, you have potential for failures, because somebody without those well thought out agreements and plans, I think that you end up with this, and then you fail, and there's a section of trail that doesn't get maintained, or maybe it's not consistent. That was my main concern, is just that long-term maintenance plan and consistency. So the user experience is the same, is all key, and I think that's all foundational with those agreements. And that's my biggest concern, is to make sure that we do it right the first time and that it's sustainable.
And we were starting to see that, because all of a sudden they were like, well, we could just go ahead and pull out blackberries and put it. And it's like, so how many times are you going to rebuild that trail? Like,
Right.
okay, but yeah.
Well, and I think one of the things are a lesson learned, I think I mentioned a couple times the Oceanie Trail. So I managed the Oceanie Trail from 2010 to 2012, I think. And looking at the history there, one of the lessons learned was just that. When that agreement was in place, there was a lot of interest and a lot of enthusiasm by entities, and they signed an agreement, and every couple years they dropped off that agreement, and because there was nothing that tied them to it other than the agreement was very softly written that just said, oh yeah, we all support it. And that from the 90s up through the 2000s. And then when I got there in 2010, there was nobody in the agreement except us. And we were the fee title owner. And so that's exactly what this current structure is trying to insulate us from, which is there's multiple levels, whereas these sponsors, such as the City of Rockaway or Wheeler, if they were to default on there under the current MOU, it would then go to the managing entity underneath, which would be Tillamook County. And they agree that in the MOU that they would take responsibility beyond that. And then for that, the verbiage talks about if one of the managing partners is to disagree or walk away from the agreement, that it could rupture the entire agreement. And so we've tried to put those provisions in place as kind of that a little bit of teeth, right? So that says, hey, there's something here. If this is a flippant decision, we don't want it to be a flippant decision that just says, oh, we're not going to do it this year. because we can't have the dips and valleys, trying to have this shared commitment and shared cooperation in moving forward, and that we each are agreeing to a piece, but that without, if one of those pieces walks away, it kind of throws the whole thing at jeopardy of just dropping back and reverting back to the port. And because we've seen that at the OC&E when we've been kind of left on our own, not that we don't still have some partners, but it's when it's not how that was originally intended to be. And so we still see large sections that have never got developed or been restored because we don't have the money it's well over 100 miles. And so seeing how we currently manage it with one ranger and one seasonal for that 106-mile stretch. So knowing how currently with our budget struggles ourselves, that if it's left to us, it will falter, just similar to the OC&E. But as these partners, as long as they stay involved, that I think there's at least a possible path to success.
I think it's also important the history of this as you go through the agreements so that future agencies, counties have that historical knowledge of not just what you shared with signing these agreements that aren't necessarily in the legal documents, but you have that historical reference, because so much of that gets lost,
As
20, 30 years
Yep.
from now, and nobody really knows. And they're like, oh, well, the counties don't have money, so the state does. So,
And the times will change.
yeah.
Well, as you guys were talking, I was thinking maybe even the whereas, we even put it in there, just a historical paragraph that is very clear, like this is why we're doing it and arrived at this moment, but this moment could shift at any moment. Yep. Any other feedback?
Well, has there been, I know we're talking about agencies a lot and
Mhm.
support from agencies. Have there been town halls, informational hearings, local?
Oh my
I mean,
God.
millions of them, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
don't build that in my back, the NIMBY
Oh, yeah.
dynamic. We fleshed all that out, feeling
Oh
good
my-
about that.
Oh, for at least 12 years. I mean,
Yeah.
literally when we
Yeah.
were in meetings, I had one guy for probably 6 years that was like, so, I'm going to be naked in my backyard. I'm like, I don't care. As long as you're not sexually aroused, I don't care. Like, I'm done hearing it. Right. Like we have done so much public outreach on this. And honestly, a lot of those folks that were in the room that were NIMBYs are now actually volunteering with the foundation. We have two people in that room that are now on the other side of it because they realize that it could actually bring more economy to their local communities. And there's always going to be one or two, but I would say Dennis Wiley, when he was here as the project manager, I mean, him and Mike Cafferetta they were from the beginning, have taken so many public hits, and Doug and I, and then Peter and I, and then Cal and I, and now Kate and I. That's the other challenge, is that there's always new people that come in, but most people who are coming in the room now are actually proponents rather than the opposite. Yeah. It does help now that as we're breaking it into segments, those local communities are actually having to do that public outreach. It's not state agencies coming into your backyard and saying, we're going to put a trail in. That has changed the tide completely. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been involved with trail projects. I get close to the end and then 5 neighbors show up and it's over with. So it's
Done.
it's important to get all that out for sure. It's great. So like Dave said, it sounds like the momentum's really come around. So
Yeah. I just worry about the 10 years from now when the things are different budgetarily and all that good stuff. It puts us on the hook, but I love the idea of adding it into that beginning of the whereas.
Yeah, and I think Alice just brought up, I think is a good point, is just it's one more of those things that helps bind everybody, is when we talk about going to the Surface Transportation Board, the rail banking agreement is a federal designation allowance that says that's still retained as a rail line, but it can be used for trail purposes, but trail purposes only. And so that's one of the other things that, as we enter this in agreement, that kind of puts it at risk if people drop off, is that it kind of the risk is that we drop it out of the rail banking agreement. And that's what the interest is in keeping it connected, is keeping that thoroughfare open or available as a way through in case they ever had to reestablish rail line, which technically is a possibility. Don't shake your head, Liz. It might be coming back.
Short line wants
Yeah,
to take
yeah. But technically, if they ever decide to reestablish rail service, if they decide they could get through the Coast Range without having to rebuild it.
Yeah. It's just, as looking at the briefing document, it's probably important for the commission to know, I mean, are there existing adjacencies with current Oregon parks? I mean, I know Stub Stewart is an adjacency, but running the whole thing, are there any other existing adjacencies?
Well, we would want to run the whole thing.
Yeah.
Cougar Valley.
On the coast section, there's a few along the coast that it runs by state park properties on the coast itself. As it starts to veer inland at Wheeler and Moeller, up river from Moeller about 4 to 5 miles, there's an unbuilt property we call Cougar Valley that it was spec to be a campground that we've not built on. It's right along the rail line. And then as you get into the Coast Range itself, you're in virtually almost all Oregon Department of Forestry land. So, and then you hit Stub Stewart on the east side of the Coast Range. So that section roughly from that park at Cougar Valley to Stub Stewart would kind of be the state's responsibility section that we're saying would be between state parks and Oregon Department of Forestry, and that the counties would take below on the lower sections.
I think Forestry's board's gonna have a harder conversation than what you're having right now. They're not thrilled about it. And currently, we all signed an agreement, commission and the director, years and years and years ago. And we fund the Tillamook Forest Visitor Center staff. And that agreement will expire, I think, the end of this year, mid next year. And so we've been talking about potentially then we would support a ranger doing that portion to help them come on board. Yeah, the stuff we do, I don't.
Can you talk a little bit more about the ODF and OPRD interaction? You said there's some discrepancies or challenges or?
ODF in the last 10 years, their priorities have shifted so much, right, with wildfires. So back in the day, recreation was a really big deal. So when this started, I mean, Doug was very committed to it. Doug is still very committed to it. I think ODF would love to be very committed to it, but their priorities, they're like, we can't touch anything. You're getting that scarcity mindset of we can't do anything more because we're so overwhelmed. But if you can pull up and look, like this could actually be it runs right through the Tillamook Forest, which they already have trails there anyway. But it's hard when you're in a back corner, right? Trying to figure out what to do. So I don't think their board's going to be like, yeah, let's talk about a recreation trail. They're so focused on wildfires right now. But there are staff within ODF that are super excited about the opportunity to stay involved.
I think there's also a discussion of what we've talked about is having our sections be together is there may be a division of duties conversation. One thing we talk with a lot of our partners about currently is we each do what we're good at. And maybe while we have experience running linear trails, maybe we take on more of that burden. They take on more of the natural resource obligation, which is managing the trees and managing the weeds and some of that. And they have access to fire crews and the South Fork DOC crew to do clearing. And so maybe there's a division of labor we could come up with that made sense to both state agencies that allow us each to do what we have the ability to do, instead of saying, this is going to be our section from here, this mile to this mile, and then it's yours. And we're duplicating. We've been trying to get away from duplicating effort and just saying what is the most efficient. And so that's kind of the conversations we've been having more with them, is what that would look like as far as how we would manage that section. That section, I think it's also important to note that we've been pretty open that would be probably a different maintenance standard than the other sections. So what killed this as a rail line is that section through the Coast Range has landslides and has blown out multiple times because of erosion and natural resource concerns. So the expectation that we would be able to establish a 10-foot wide paved path through there when they couldn't keep a rail line in there is not probably realistic. So what we're talking about is that there's a high likelihood that'll be almost more of a wilderness standard trail. That the idea is that the path is open, but that it's probably not going to be that paved wide section that you may see more on the coast. That makes more sense over on the coast where you're seeing so many people hike up and down through in between the communities, and but the through the Coast Range section will be a lower maintenance standard than probably the other sections, at least initially.
And that'll be in our agreement.
Yeah.
And does the agreement also have a standard of trail maintenance for every single? portion, or how is that?
How it defines it right now is that that's partially what we will, as the leaseholder, be doing, is defining those maintenance and trail standards, and that we would take the point on that. And so it would be working with the cooperative group, the managing group on each section, what those look like, but that we would help take the lead on what those trail standards and designs were as we talk through. But so technically it doesn't say, again, from this mile to this mile is going to be this, but it says we would develop what that looked like long term. That's not really been done. Parametrics as a planning group has made a very beautiful plan that goes all the way through, but it's a concept, and it's kind of an ideal environment plan. So we would be kind of ground truthing that, of saying this is actually what we would be calling and reasonable for a maintenance standard.
And then the group will adopt that standard that could then be revised maybe in a
Correct.
decade
Yeah.
or so.
So the other thing so it wouldn't be stay, the new group would then adopt, and approve any plan. So none of those plans can move forward until it comes to that governance body to say they have to stay consistent. They have to be within our trail design standards, and so it keeps some accountability with all of us back at the table.
Mhm.
Yeah. And Alice, are you going over the whole MOU tomorrow with them? You don't have to come up, but we made tomorrow just go through the MOU, or make sure you have a copy of it so you can see
Yeah,
what
I
the
do
task and
want
roles
to
and
read.
responsibilities, so you can see what it actually looks like. Okay, we'll get you a copy of the MOU so you can see the draft. Yeah. Yeah, because I don't think that is in your packets, but that helps. You can kind of see whose roles and responsibilities and what the overarching tasks are.
To clarify though, it is all in draft form.
Totally. Legal review that. Wing it on our own.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Sounds fun.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, guys. Good job. Just in the nick of time.
It's a good thing we know we're
So
not.
now I think we have a walking tour, right, Lisa?
Yeah.
We get to move a little bit.
Oh, hold on. Sal's gonna give us an overview and tell us what to do and how to do it.
Okay.
We'll be ready.
Awesome.
This one, should we try to have Jeff first? Does it matter what I don't want to inadvertently do something that's. One more. Okay. Okay, just. Well, while you're getting that set up, I'll start. So Chair Hill, Director Sumption, members of the commission, I'm Michelle Scalise. I'm the manager of the Grants and Community Programs section at OPRD. We are fortunate enough to be joined by Mayor Kate from the City of Independence, and they have so graciously agreed to take us on a tour of various heritage grants that we've participated in here in their community, and recreation grants in the community today. So Mayor Kate's gonna do a brief presentation, and then we're gonna get out and start walking around. And I believe that there is an option for
Short versus a long.
yes, yeah, and there might be an optional stop at the end. And so I'll let Mayor Kate
Yeah.
take over.
Well, thank you and welcome. It's really great to have you here, to host you here today. My background, I'm a landscape architect, and I've worked on parks and recreation projects. Was working on large scale federal projects. And so I have a deep love and appreciation for parks and recreation, and very excited that you're here in Independence today. I do go by Mayor Kate because my last name is really hard to pronounce. So it's just a whole lot easier that way. I also just go by Kate. So happy to have you here. And I promise I'm going to keep the PowerPoint portion of this short because it's a really beautiful day and it's a lot more fun to be outside and see this. But this hopefully will give you a little bit of context to the community and the orientation to some of the projects before we go out there. So I'm gonna get orientated here. So we have a long history of with the Parks and Rec deeply appreciated support that we've had, and we have had just some tremendous partnerships that we can talk a lot about. And interestingly enough, we tie it into our economic development focus. And sometimes people, they'll ask me like, well, how does parks and recreation, I mean, that's a community livability aspect. Like, why is it important for the economic development? And it is in so many ways for us, because we want our community to be vibrant and lively and a good place of, good place for people to be living and raising their families and recreating. So when we're attracting businesses to the community, that's a really important aspect for us. As well as it just helps bring people downtown. It helps people who are visiting here for events. So we really like to look at that holistically from all angles. We like to consider ourselves a smart rural community. And we really pride ourselves on a lot of community engagement. We have a very accessible city staff, city hall. We really want people to come in and feel welcome and like we're problem solvers and we're coming to the table to help. We want to have, I think, responsible growth here in our community. We're really looking at sustainable, what is good for our community, what is good for attracting and keeping businesses in the area. And then just how do we look at this holistically, this whole entire ecosystem approach of the livability plus economic development. And we've been having, I would say, some good success with that. We have some really good examples and stories that we can tell. We do have a big entrepreneurial mindset here in the community. We like to say that, we can do it, or we're going to find out a way to do something, instead of talking a little bit more about like the roadblocks or why we can't do something. We've always been like that little scrappy town that's punching above our weight class. And we're pretty proud of that. We were able to get gig internet into the community long before any other service provider would have come to town. And basically we started asking, hey, we want to bring fiber to the community. And, that they were like, you guys are way down on the list of when you're going to get that. And so we said, well, not if we make it ourselves. And so we put together Minet and have successfully been providing that. And that's been a game changer for our community to have that. All of our parks have it now too. So it's great. And so does our trolley. So again, we take a really collaborative approach to these opportunities and looking at how can we leverage the resources that we have. How can we do public-private partnerships? How can we work alongside our state and federal partners to really achieve the goals that we have? Also really proud of the fact that we're a very diverse community. We have, we're right about 40% Hispanic community. We have a lot of wonderful fiestas that brings a nice cultural aspect to our community. And we also have a diversity of industries. So we, of course, we want to have the larger employers that are here in town, but we also want to help keep our agricultural roots going and make sure that our farming community is feeling supported and looking at how we can integrate them, as well as your more traditional Main Street businesses. So again, taking a very kind of wide lens look at that and how we can help make our community feel like it's inclusive to everybody that's here. We have, and this is one of the things that I'm really unfortunately, in my line of work, I've seen them also just sit on shelves for a long time. And it's like, wow, all that hard work and effort went into this plan. And then it's sitting on a shelf. It's kind of done and out of people's minds. And Independence is really, really good at executing on these plans. And so like the 2020 vision plan that had been done was basically completed early. So, overachieving that. And, and people are excited about then how do we set that next vision plan? How do we get the community's involvement and input? And I think that's a real testament to the strength of what's been built here, because we have had so much community input, and then people can see that there's action being taken and that momentum that's coming from that. So again, I mean, just we're so fortunate that we are on the Willamette River and we have about 2.5 miles of riverfront. And it's just been such an asset to our community, but it didn't always used to be that way. This kind of where we're sitting now used to be a gravel pit. And you know, that's what people just remembered it as. And back in the day, and actually not that long ago, I can remember when my parents first moved to town and we're like, let's go downtown. And they're like, no, we're not going to go downtown. There's nothing there. And B, Independence used to be a pretty rough town. The buildings were really run down. The streetscape wasn't very nice. There weren't very many businesses down here. There's this big old gravel pit. And so it just wasn't a very appealing place. And then that vision started. And again, this amazing master plan that was developed. And it has really become a community success story. This is our community living room. And this particular plan was started in 2016 and was funded by Oregon Parks and Rec Department. So we're really fortunate for that. Having that proximity to the river really put an emphasis on bike and pedestrian trails, and that's what the community wanted to see. And we're also, the next wish is to keep the trail moving south, so kind of to this direction from City Hall, and keep that trail extending. So I've talked a little bit about this. This is near and dear to my heart, the community placemaking, and how do we activate downtown? How do we keep people coming here year round and making it a really welcoming and friendly place for people to shop, to eat, to come down for a festival, to come down just to walk their dog, or when visitors are staying here. And so the city really put a lot of emphasis on that, and with remarkable results. I mean, our downtown is oftentimes people are like, this is so quaint, it's very cute. I'm bragging a little bit and I might be biased, but I really do think it's the feel of the community is really nice and very welcoming to not just our community, the residents who are here, but then also people who are coming to visit. And that's what it kind of looked like before. It was the buildings were getting a little bit more, you know, they needed some sprucing up. The streets were not super inviting. And so that, you know, the work started to really turn that around and look at how that could be improved upon. And so today it's more welcoming, it's more vibrant. And once people started to see that the city was investing in the streets and the buildings, then the businesses followed. People were like, okay, if people are making investment in this community, then we're feeling more confident in making that same investment. And it started with, you know, a bakery here and then another shop here. And that's always, I think, a struggle in a rural community, is keeping that vibrancy going. We've survived the pandemic, we've survived some other things. So we really feel like our community is there supporting that and can again see the vision for what we're trying to create. And this remarkable transformation has really allowed us to become just a focal point, the amphitheater, which we'll go walk by and see, of just hosting events, really activating it with movies in the park, music in the park, fiestas, you name it, it's here. The starting point, ending point of bike races. And then a couple years in a row, we were able to host the Airstreams, which is just a really fun. They did an urban camp out basically, and camped out for a night and went to our, businesses. People came down, they gave tours. It was a really cool, fun event and great way to activate downtown. This is what the park used to look like. And it was functional. I mean, it's worked as a ball field and, some other things, but it could have used a little more pizzazz. So that became a vision again for how that could really be activated. And that is now, our park as it is today. And again, just really embraced and beloved by the community. It was built with a variety of funding sources, as a lot of these projects do. It took us 3 years to build it. It was used as a National Guard training for earth moving, which was a huge help. And then the plaza was made possible. We had a $250,000 local government grant. And so that was, again, just super helpful for us. And then also we did have another grant for the Recreation and Trails program in 2014 that helped us build the biker boater campground that's adjacent to it. And so that level of investment that comes into our communities, we now host a really popular summer music series. Obviously, 4th of July, please come back for 4th of July. It's Independence does a great job celebrating the community for a couple of days. And we've had upwards of 20,000 people in that amphitheater, which is a lot. But it's really great just to see the energy that can bring downtown. And of course, it benefits our business owners as well. We have had, I can't say enough good things about, our partnership with, I know Curry is here, and our historic buildings and being able to use the diamonds in the rough. We've had several urban renewal projects in facade grants that have just been fantastic. The Main Street program has been a really strong program for us to benefit from. And slowly over time, these buildings have been getting fixed up, and we're almost through the list. We still have a couple more that we would love to see investment in, but that's always the push-pull with kind of the public-private partnership. We can wish things to happen, but we need the partners to come to the table on that. But we have thankfully been able to leverage those programs in terms of approaching the building owners in terms of like, here's how we can help partner with you to get these improvements done. And for the most part, we have found that the building owners are receptive to that. But it's expensive to these old buildings come with their share of interesting hurdles. I have my business in one downtown, and it's charming and wonderful. And there are days that I grit my teeth a little bit when the ceiling leaks again. But it's great to have those programs to help support our downtown. And I think we've made really good use of them. We try to be really good stewards of the money and to make sure that we are making sure that the ripple effect on these investments is felt in the community. So here's just some fun, before and after examples. And again, we'll see these when we go on the walking tour, so I'm not going to linger on them too much. But we've had several of the buildings who have won awards and have been recognized for the work that they put in on that. And actually, the building kind of right in the middle, the little short one, is actually undergoing some renovation right now, and the transom lights have been exposed, so it's really transformed that building significantly. And again, kind of an older, the older view, and then what it's like today. And we have a couple of iconic buildings that are really, stand out for people in the community. And we'll see the Gilgamesh building. Again, this had a Main Street grant somewhat recently, about $100,000, and completely transformed that building and brought a great restaurant into town. That's been, a very popular spot for both visitors and residents. And again, also another Main Street grant. This was the old City Hall. And then it kind of changed ownership a few times. It has an interesting backstory on it, but was purchased and is now our first brewery, Parallel 45. And they have their brewery operations out of there, as well as their tasting room. And then New York Squares Pizza just moved in. So it's a great combination of pizza and beer. And then they still have some room for some other additional businesses, and they support food trucks outside. So it's become a busy little hub in town. And in terms of history, our Heritage Museum, we'd like to partner with them. They're a great asset to the community. Here's an example of, they did an exhibit of the hops history. So we have a long history of hops in the community and Native American history and culture. And so these interpretive panels were used during an exhibit, and then they're like, well, the exhibit's done. And we're like, well, we don't want to just hate to just see them get put in a closet somewhere. And so we actually installed them on the post in the Riverview Park so that the more people could see them and experience the history. And there's an example of where they are at. And there's our beloved trolley. So this is a newer addition to our community the last couple of years. We were able to get this going with a state grant funding through our local state representatives were really instrumental in helping us get this. It's really fun. Again, tourists love to ride it. It connects to Western Oregon University and Monmouth. And then back here, it just basically goes back and forth between the two communities. And then we also use it during special events and overflow. And it's been really, really well received. We have great ridership numbers. In fact, it surpassed the numbers that we had anticipated. And we have great stories about people now being able to access doctor's appointments, school, getting back and forth to school, and really being able to get out and about in the community more, which has been rewarding for us to hear and doing exactly what we were wanting it to do. So again, the Valley Concrete site, which is where we're sitting right now, and you can see kind of to the north in this, well, it is to the north, that's accurate, where the amphitheater is. And it just really was an eyesore, frankly, for the community. It's not a very welcoming part of our community. And so that was, again, part of the vision to establish some sort of hotel, more housing, bringing that vibrancy downtown. And so we'll walk by it, but that's where the hotel and the townhomes and the apartments are. And that's been a really welcome addition to the community in terms of bringing people downtown. And we have the hotel is about 72, I believe it's 72 rooms. And I don't know how many, I can't remember offhand how many apartments and townhomes there are down there, but they've consistently been at maximum occupancy. And so that's a before picture. And there's with it built up. And so we do have some commercial space on the bottom and then apartments up top. And we kind of have a theory that some people get those apartments just to be able to sit on their balcony and watch the summer music concerts and the 4th of July celebration. So I can't blame them. So again, you know, how this ties in with that park system, it's hard or harder to imagine that development being as successful if it didn't have that adjacent park and river. The pathways are hugely popular. Again, with a lot of our residents go down there, and because that trail connects all the way up about 2 miles up to our ball fields to the north. And it's just been a remarkable experience to have that. It's been well received. People are asking when we're going to expand it. And I know we've done some studies, some feasibility studies about expanding it to the south of here. There is also a plan to just kind of outside of this image, there's the old parking lot, and there is a master plan to redo that and make it more, fix the parking, essentially the parking and pedestrian flow there, and to make the riverbank more user friendly and have the kind of kayaks pull in and out of there. We get a lot of boat traffic in the summertime. We get a lot of kayakers that go in at Buena Vista and float down, or they'll put in here and float down to Salem. And the biker boater campground has been really popular, and we get international travelers. You know, we are always curious, like, how did you find us? Where are you here? And we're on, you know, the Willamette, we're also on the bike. And so it's been just a really wonderful asset to our community. And I think it's one that is very protected by our community. They're very, when we talk about, you know, unfortunately, like budget cuts or where we have to prioritize spending, they're kind of like, we really want to make sure that our Riverview Park remains as is. And with that, I know I flew through that because I know it's so beautiful outside, and I figure people would rather go outside and talk about this. But I did want to give people a little bit of a, you know, some context and a way of kind of getting oriented. But I'm happy to take some questions if people want, or we can.
Well,
Get on
thank
site.
you so much. I've been to your 4th of July event and it was
Yeah.
amazing. And then that was like a decade ago. And then last night, I walked the entirety of your riverfront
Yeah.
trail and it was like 7 p.m. and there were families
Yeah.
and tons of people. The ball fields were being used. And it's just, it's a case study for how these small rural communities
Yeah.
can really utilize these grants, but also these visions that actually get put to use and put into place. And so we have a lot to learn from you in terms of
Oh,
how this community has evolved into such a special place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. But let's get out and walk if people don't have any other
Yeah.
questions.
So I can give just a, oh, go ahead.
Question.
Yeah.
What year was this development, the hotel and apartments? When was that built?
So the development came on right during the pandemic. So yeah, yeah.
During the pandemic?
Yeah, so basically they're opening, and the same thing with the Gilgamesh building, literally, I remember walking, because we were gonna have a big like pub crawl. And then the night before, it was kind of like, hey, we're gonna have to we're gonna have to cancel that. And Gilgamesh that was gonna kind of be their grand opening. And same thing with the hotel. They were like, hey, we're finally ready to have people. And it was just like, oh, the timing of this. But so it's been pretty recent, 2020. But we're really thankful, grateful that we're happy and thriving. So for the walking tour, I think the goal is to get you back here like 3:30, and we're just gonna kind of do a loop around the amphitheater park, and we'll end up back here. So if people want to leave things here, we're also going to be walking right by the hotel. So if people wanted to peel off there, that's fine. We do have, if there's interest, sounds like some people expressed interest in maybe going to the Inspiration Garden. We can take a group of people down there as well. That's a great example of an old logging mill site that's been totally transformed by our master gardeners, and we can and over to there, whoever wants to, if they want to. So. Yeah.
Yeah.